So now that we know where our time actually goes, we need now a method for deciding really what should get it going forward. Now, most prioritization advice really gives you a matrix and then leaves you to it. There's lots of very good matrices out there, such as the uh, Eisenhower matrix and so on. Now, what we're going to do here is go a level deeper. We're going to specifically tailor this for founders, because the real challenge here isn't sorting a to-do list. It's really having a discipline to say no to stuff that looks urgent but doesn't actually matter. Now, you've probably seen the classic urgent versus important types of matrices before. It's a solid starting point, of course. It's conventional tools. And if you've never used them, it really is worth a quick search after this session. But for founders and small businesses such as ours specifically, those are missing a filter, because almost everything in a growing business can really be made to look both urgent as well as important. And if you squint at it hard enough. So what we need to do is ask one more critical question layered on top. And that question is simply, does this require me specifically, or could someone else do it? Now, the filter that I want us to run through every task is this. Firstly, does this genuinely need my specific judgment, my relationships, or my authority? Or could someone else make this call? Second, if I delay this, let's say by a week, does it actually cost the business something meaningful? Or am I just assuming it does because it feels urgent? And then the third thing is that am I honestly the only person who could do this well, or am I just the person who's always done it? Now, if a task falls or fails really across all three of these, then it's a very strong candidate to delegate or drop and not to prioritize. Now, this is quite a subtle but a very important point. A lot of what looks like a prioritization problem is actually a delegation problem in disguise. If a task fails those three question filters that we saw, then the question isn't really to find it a better slot in your week. It's to find a different owner entirely for it. And we'll go deep on how to actually do that in another module. But for now, what I want us to do is just start noticing that as you go through your week, how many things that you're prioritizing that you probably shouldn't even be doing. Now, not everything that fails the filter needs a new owner, right? Some things just could stop entirely. Legacy reporting, for example, that nobody reads, or recurring meetings that really have outlived their purpose. Nice to have projects that never really quite reach the top of anyone's list anyway. And this is where Audacity from VISTA comes in. Okay, that is the final pillar. It's really the willingness, even the boldness, to cut something that feels established, even if no one's explicitly asked you to do it. Killing something is often a lot more valuable than optimizing it. And it is really the option founders reach for the least. So here's how this becomes a habit rather than a one-off exercise. At the start of each week, let's say Sunday evening, or the first thing on Monday, whenever it suits your rhythm, what you should do is write down the 3 to 5 outcomes that actually matter for that week. Not the tasks, but the outcomes. Okay, and write each one of them through these 3 questions that we've covered beforehand. Now, whatever's left on your plate that isn't one of those outcomes defaults to one of 3 things. It either is delegated, it's either delayed, or it's dropped. Now, this is one ritual. And if it's done consistently, then it does much, much more for Founders Week than really any other single habit that I coach. So please implement this. Now, this whole module really sits on two VISTA pillars working very closely next to each other. One is velocity, which is about sequencing, deciding about what goes first, so that momentum builds in the right direction rather than being spread out thin. And then there is audacity. Okay, this is about having the nerve, the boldness to cut what doesn't belong, even when it's comfortable or very familiar. So prioritization done well really is about that. Okay, so let's recap. Let's run every task through the 3-question filter. And let's hold a simple weekly ritual to set your top outcomes and then default everything else to delegate, delay, or drop. Now, once you know what actually matters, the next challenge is going to be to run that list or to turn that list into actionable, workable week, which is exactly what we're going to be covering next. And that is when we look at designing your week rather than just your day.